Libra, let me say this right away: what you're about to hear today is not random. You didn't just stumble into this video by accident. You are here because the universe has something to tell you, and it chose this exact moment to speak directly to your soul. This is not a coincidence, it's an appointment with destiny. The message I'm about to share may explain why certain feelings, certain patterns, have been pulling at you lately, and why you've been sensing that something is shifting in the unseen. Imagine this: a quiet morning, sunlight slipping through your window, the curtains swaying with the faintest breeze. Harmless, ordinary, until you realize that breeze is not just air, it's an invitation. A gentle nudge from the divine. That is what this moment is for you. This is the universe leaning in, saying, listen closely. What you discover today could set you free from something that has held you far too long. I'm here to guide you through this journey, but make no mistake, this isn't just another horoscope reading. This is a deep dive into the hidden currents of your life, an unveiling of truths that could shift your entire perspective. Today, we'll explore a pattern of energy that has kept you in a role for others, a role you never fully chose but have carried out with quiet loyalty. And for the first time, we're going to talk about how to step out of it, fully and unapologetically. Before we go further, I want to take a moment to acknowledge something important. Your presence here matters. Every like you give, every comment you share, every time you subscribe, it's not just a number. It's a signal to the universe that you are open, you are willing, and you are ready to receive what's meant for you. And I want you to know, from the very depths of my heart, how much I value that. Your support is what fuels this channel, Zodiac Whisper Tarot, and makes it possible to continue bringing you these transformative messages. And Libra, I'm telling you, know you'll want to stay with me until the very end. What's coming isn't just a story or a prediction. It's the key to understanding why certain dynamics in your life have unfolded the way they have. It's also the starting point for reclaiming your balance and your freedom. There are layers here, layers of love, control, expectation, and soul contracts, and today we're going to start peeling them back together. I want you to approach this with both an open heart and a grounded mind. This is not about fear, it's about clarity. It's about finally seeing where you've been, why you've been there, and how to choose something different from this point forward. Think of it as both a revelation and an invitation, a sacred conversation between you and the divine, facilitated by the cosmic language of astrology, tarot, and the quiet miracles that God still works in modern life. So here's my request to you, right now. If something inside you already knows this message is for you, take a second to comment below with the number 7. 7 is the number of spiritual awakening, the sign that you're ready to rise above old limitations. Write it not just as a comment, but as a declaration to yourself, to the universe, and to every ancestor who prayed for your liberation before you even got here. Libra, this is your moment. You've answered the call by showing up. Now, stay with me until the end, because by the time we're finished, you may look at your life and your place in it with a completely different set of eyes. Sometimes, Libra, what you feel in your body is the first whisper of a truth your mind hasn't dared to name. That inexplicable heaviness in the morning, the way even the things you usually love feel muted, as if you're experiencing them through a pane of glass. This is not laziness, and it is not weakness. In astrology, your air element makes you especially sensitive to the unseen currents around you. You naturally absorb the moods and unspoken tensions in your environment, just as the wind carries the scent of something from far away. But when the air becomes heavy with someone else's expectations, it can settle over you like a fog, dulling your joy and dimming your vitality without you even realizing it's happening. Libra is the sign of balance, and because of that, you often take it upon yourself to create harmony for others, even if it means absorbing their unrest into your own body. Over time, this can create a subtle but constant drain on your energy. You may find that even when you're physically rested, your spirit feels tired, like a garden that has stopped blooming because the roots are planted in soil that's been overworked. This is the hidden cost of holding the peace for everyone else. You end up carrying their storms inside your own skies. Often, these situations are framed as love, loyalty, or responsibility. On the surface, they can look beautiful, almost idyllic, like a perfectly arranged room or a carefully tended garden. But as I've seen time and time again in the charts of those who carry this energy, that beauty can be deceptive. It can be what I call a gilded cage, a place where everything looks right, even comfortable, but where your movements, your choices, and your freedom are subtly restricted. You're surrounded by the scent of flowers, sitting on a velvet chair, but the door is always locked. This kind of restraint rarely begins with harshness. Instead, it is often built from gestures of care that come with invisible strings. People may say they just want the best for you, but what they really want is for you to stay exactly where you are, fulfilling a role that makes them feel safe. They may praise your reliability, your diplomacy, your calm, but underneath, there is an unspoken agreement that you will keep the balance, even at the expense of your own growth. It is here that I think of the quiet wisdom found in the daily words of faith, the idea that true love does not bind, it frees. The healthiest bonds are those that allow each person to stand tall in their own strength, without fear that the other will leave if they change. If a connection requires you to shrink yourself in order to fit inside it, that is not the kind of love that was meant to carry you forward. The guidance is gentle but firm. Do not mistake the absence of conflict for the presence of peace, and do not confuse control for care. If you've been feeling a constant undercurrent of weariness, it's time to start listening more closely to your own signals. Your body speaks to you in ways that your mind can ignore. Notice when your shoulders feel heavy in certain conversations, or when your breath becomes shallow around certain people. Pay attention to the subtle ways your mood shifts in particular spaces. These are not random reactions, they are your inner compass pointing toward what drains you and what nourishes you. The gift of being a Libra is your innate ability to connect, to harmonize, and to see multiple perspectives. But that gift is meant to be shared freely, not extracted from you like a resource to be controlled. When you begin to feel that your life is more about maintaining someone else's comfort than pursuing your own evolution, it's a sign that the scales have tipped too far. And like any good Libran, it's in your nature to restore balance, but this time, the balance must include you. You are not here to live in someone else's carefully curated picture of your life. You are here to experience the fullness of your own journey. And the first step toward that is recognizing when the cage is disguised as a garden, and giving yourself permission to find the key. Once you see it for what it is, you can begin to open the door, not to run away in anger, but to walk forward in truth. That is the beginning of real freedom, the kind that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval, and the kind your soul has been quietly asking for all along. It often begins so subtly that you almost miss it. Libra, you have a natural gift for seeing both sides of a situation, for smoothing out rough edges between people, for making sure the room feels balanced. That's why those around you, especially the ones closest to you, have learned to lean on you in ways you might not even notice. At first, it can feel like love. It can feel like trust. It can feel like you're the anchor that holds everything steady. But over time, if that balance isn't mutual, it becomes something else entirely, a quiet expectation that you will always be the one to hold it all together, even if it costs you your own well-being. In this particular story, imagine the image of you, not in a photo album or a frame on the wall, but placed intentionally or note in what I call a spiritual altar. There's no incense burning, no visible ritual, but it's a space in someone's energy where they keep you exactly as they want to remember you: reliable, steady, available. This altar isn't about honoring who you truly are. It's about preserving a version of you that serves their comfort. The mother and daughter in this metaphor might see you as the glue that keeps everything in place. They may even speak of you with affection and nostalgia, but the underlying vibration is about keeping you in that role, not encouraging you to grow beyond it. When you are positioned this way, the energy becomes uneven. You find yourself giving far more than you receive, offering your time, your emotional bandwidth, your understanding without the same level of care flowing back toward you. You listen deeply but notice that when it's your turn to speak, the attention isn't the same. You step into smooth tensions, but when you're the one feeling overwhelmed, there's no one stepping in for you. This imbalance doesn't always look like outright neglect. Often, it's hidden beneath gestures of appreciation that still come with the silent condition: don't change. Stay who we need you to be. From an emotional healing perspective, this is where the cracks start to form beneath the surface. Constantly being the harmonizer can lead you to suppress your own needs and even lose touch with them entirely. You may start to believe that your worth lies in your ability to make others feel at ease, to fix the discord before it erupts. But here's the truth you need to hold on to: you are more than the balance you create for others. You deserve to be heard, supported, and cared for, not just in return for your efforts, but because you are inherently worthy of those things. In the language of astrology, this pattern shows up for many Libras as a deep desire to maintain peace, even at personal cost. It's a noble instinct, but without boundaries, it can leave you locked in a role that doesn't allow your own life to evolve. The altar becomes a symbolic cage. It's comfortable, it's familiar, and it looks safe, but it isn't freedom. The gentle advice here is to start by acknowledging the truth of what you feel. Pay attention to moments when you sense that the exchange isn't equal, when you leave a conversation feeling lighter or heavier. Recognizing those moments is not about blame, it's about clarity. When you understand where the imbalance is, you can begin to shift it. And shifting it doesn't always mean confrontation. Sometimes it starts with subtle acts of reclaiming your time, your energy, your presence. Saying no without apology. Taking a day for yourself without explanation. Allowing yourself to pursue something that excites you, even if it's unrelated to anyone else's needs. These are not selfish acts, they are acts of stewardship over your own life. Think of it as planting seeds in a neglected corner of your garden. Each seed is a choice you make for yourself, a reminder that your role is not just to keep the peace but to live in a way that brings you peace, too. And as those seeds grow, you may find that the people who truly value you will adjust, will learn to meet you as the whole person you are now, not the static version they kept on their altar. The balance you were born to embody was never meant to be about holding others together at the cost of yourself. It was meant to be the harmony that naturally flows when everyone stands in their own strength, including you. You might not see it happening, Libra, but energy has a way of traveling silently, weaving threads between people and places long after the physical connection has ended. Sometimes it's not an obvious act, like a ritual in a sacred space, but rather the quiet, repeated gestures that hold you in someone else's emotional orbit. It could be the way a person keeps a photo of you in a certain place, not to celebrate you, but to keep you tethered to a role you once played in their life. It might be the way your name comes up in conversations, laced not with well wishes but with subtle disappointment or longing for the version of you they preferred. These small actions, repeated over time, create an energetic echo of vibration that keeps pulling at your awareness even when you've tried to move on. From the perspective of the law of attraction, energy follows attention. Whatever is focused one specially with strong emotion amplifies and flows back in some form. When someone keeps you in their thoughts through the filter of regret, control, or fear of change, they send out a consistent signal that reaches you on a level deeper than words. Over time, it's like an invisible silver cord has been spun between your heart and theirs. This cord is thin, almost delicate, but deceptively strong. You can't always see it, yet you feel its presence when you hesitate to take a step forward, when the thought of making a change is immediately followed by guilt or the image of their reaction. It's important to understand that this connection isn't the same as genuine responsibility. Responsibility is a conscious, mutual choice made in freedom. What we're talking about here is a belief that has been planted sometimes gently, sometimes firmly into your mind and heart, the idea that you are bound to someone's stability, that without you they might falter, and that leaving your role would be an act of harm rather than an act of self-preservation. This is not a sacred vow you made knowingly, it's a quiet conditioning that has been reinforced through repeated cues. Recognizing this dynamic is not about vilifying the other person. Most of the time, they aren't aware of the energetic weight they are placing on you. They may be acting out of their own fears, insecurities, and habits. But awareness gives you the power to decide whether to continue carrying that weight or to begin loosening the cord. And loosening it doesn't mean breaking ties in anger. It means reclaiming your right to choose how and where your energy flows. Here is where symbolic tools can help you refocus your energy. In numerology, the number 6 represents balance, harmony, and the responsibility that comes from love, but also the wisdom to know when that responsibility has turned into overextension. Meditating on the number 6 or incorporating it into your environment can remind you of the kind of balance you're aiming for, one where care for others and care for yourself coexist without either being diminished. Similarly, the color blue, particularly soft, clear shade, supports open communication and honest self-expression. Surrounding yourself with this color, whether in clothing, decor, or even visualization exercises, can help you find the words and the courage to express your boundaries without fear. Think of this as tending to the garden of your inner life. If a vine begins to grow around a healthy plant, it might look beautiful at first, but if it tightens too much, it restricts growth and weakens the plant over time. Your awareness is like the gardener's hand, gently loosening that vine so the plant can continue to thrive. This process takes patience and compassion, both for yourself and for those who may not yet understand your need for space. The shift begins the moment you accept that you are allowed to redirect your focus. You are not required to keep feeding a connection that leaves you drained. You can honor what was while choosing something different for what will be. And in doing so, you are not abandoning anyone. You are giving yourself the freedom to step into the life you are meant to live, one that is guided not by invisible cords but by conscious, chosen connections that nourish both sides equally. It's easy to believe that keeping the peace means keeping everything exactly as it is, Libra. But true peace isn't the absence of movement, it's the presence of stability that can stand on its own. The universe has a way of reminding us that we were never meant to hold the weight of other people's worlds forever. You are here not to keep everyone else from falling, but to help them find their own footing, and in doing so, to reclaim your own. That's the difference between a harmony that's alive and one that's just a still photograph. One breathes, evolves, and allows freedom, while the other traps both you and them in a frozen moment. When you've carried the role of mediator, protector, or steady anchor for too long, it's natural to feel resistance at the idea of letting go. You might wonder if the people you've held together will crumble without you. But part of your growth now is trusting that if they truly value balance, they'll learn to build it themselves. Your gift is to inspire balance, not to become a permanent substitute for it. This is where the practice of choosing yourself comes in, not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of alignment. There's something profoundly powerful about making a tangible declaration that you're ready to release the burdens that don't belong to you. For some, that declaration comes through ritual, and in your case, a few simple but symbolic elements can create a powerful energetic reset. A piece of rose quartz, with its gentle yet strong vibration of self-love, reminds you to keep your heart open to yourself. Lapis lazuli, with its deep, celestial blue, speaks of truth and the courage to live it. Place one of these before you, not as decoration, but as a conscious anchor for your intention. Beside it, light a blue candle. Blue is the color of open communication, clarity, and calm. As the flame flickers, let it represent your inner light, steady, present, and unshaken by the winds around it. Then, speak the words slowly and deliberately. I return all energy that does not belong to me. I accept peace within. Feel the truth of those words settle into you, as if they're unlocking a door you've forgotten you could open. You may choose to add another layer to this by integrating a moment of quiet reflection or prayer. I've seen people in the busiest seasons of their lives take just a few minutes each day to close their eyes, breathe deeply, and speak to something greater than themselves. It doesn't have to be elaborate. One woman once told me how she spent years in a relationship that quietly diminished her spirit. Every morning, she whispered a simple request for clarity and strength. Over time, opportunities appeared, unexpected conversations, moments of courage that gave her the path out. She described it not as a sudden miracle, but as a series of gentle, undeniable nudges that she was finally ready to follow. That's how liberation often works. It's not always a dramatic break. Sometimes it's a gradual loosening, like sunlight dissolving morning mist. And each time you choose yourself, you send a message not only to the people in your life, but also to your own subconscious: I am worth protecting. My energy is valuable. I will not live in a way that dims my light. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to carry peace within you instead of trying to create it by controlling your surroundings. And that's when something extraordinary happens. Your presence shifts. People start to feel the difference in you, and they either rise to meet you in that healthier balance, or they naturally drift away. Both outcomes are a form of grace, because they leave you surrounded by connections that respect and nourish your growth. By claiming your own peace, you invite those around you to do the same. And in that, Libra, you fulfill your highest role not as the one who keeps everyone standing still, but as the one who shows them how to stand strong in their own light. It's often when you finally begin to reclaim your energy, Libra, that the past stirs and starts to knock at your door. People who once held you in a certain role, sometimes without realizing the full extent of it, may sense on some level that your absence has shifted something in their world. They may not articulate it as losing their source of balance, but that's often exactly what it feels like for them. And so, their return might come dressed in the most harmless forms: a light-hearted message, a casual, just checking in, or a nostalgic story that tugs at your sense of shared history. Astrologically, these moments often align with planetary aspects that stir up unfinished business. Mercury retrograde can bring old conversations back into play, Venus transits may awaken dormant emotions, and certain lunar phases, especially full moons, can illuminate ties you thought had faded. These cosmic patterns are not here to trap you, but to offer you a mirror. They allow you to see clearly whether your boundaries are strong enough to hold when the familiar tries to pull you back. The key to navigating these returns is to understand motive, not in a suspicious way, but in an observant one. If someone reaches out during a time of their own instability, and if their words or presence subtly press you back into a version of yourself that no longer fits, then their visit isn't about genuine reconnection. It's about reclaiming the comfort they once had in your predictability. This is why discernment matters so deeply here. You're not being asked to judge them harshly, but to honor the truth of why they're coming back and how that aligns or doesn't with who you are now. One of the simplest yet most powerful tools you can use in moments like these is intentional journaling. Write down the affirmation, "I no longer live in the version of me you once knew." This is not a statement of anger, it's a declaration of sovereignty. Every time you write it, you reinforce your choice to remain anchored in your present growth rather than being drawn into a past that kept you small. You're telling yourself, your subconscious, and your energetic field that the door to that old chapter remains respectfully closed. And boundaries are not only about what you say or don't say, they're also about the way you care for your physical, emotional, and energetic health. The more you nourish yourself, the harder it becomes for low vibrational patterns to take hold. Meditation can help you quiet the noise and tune into your true instincts. Gentle yoga or mindful stretching can release stored tension that keeps you reactive rather than responsive. Cleansing your diet, adding more fresh, vibrant foods, and minimizing what leaves you feeling heavy can raise your baseline energy in ways that make you less susceptible to being pulled down. Even small rituals, like stepping outside each morning for fresh air or drinking water mindfully, act as anchors that keep you rooted in your own frequency. Think of it like tuning a musical instrument. When your energy is clear and steady, any discordant note from the past becomes immediately recognizable. It doesn't blend with your current song. This awareness makes it easier to say no when something doesn't serve you, not because you're shutting people out, but because you're protecting the integrity of your own melody. Remember that you can interact with returning people without surrendering your progress. You can acknowledge their presence, even share a warm exchange, without stepping back into the role they remember. Your growth is not fragile, it's resilient. But like a newly planted tree, it needs consistent care and space to strengthen its roots. Give yourself that space unapologetically. And perhaps most importantly, trust that letting certain connections fade is not cruelty, it's clarity. You are allowed to outgrow relationships that no longer align with your path. You are allowed to protect the peace you've worked so hard to create. The universe didn't guide you through all the lessons of release just so you could be pulled back into the same cycle. Every boundary you keep now is a bridge to the life you've been building, the one where you are free to stand fully in your own light. Libra, the truth is that freedom is not about burning every bridge or walking away from everyone you know. It's about discerning which connections truly nourish your soul and which ones quietly drain it. It's about choosing to stand in relationships where love is mutual, where care flows both ways, and where you are seen not just for what you do for others, but for who you truly are. You have the right to keep what uplifts you and release what no longer serves your growth without guilt or apology. When you rise from that invisible altar where you were kept in a fixed role, you do more than free yourself, you show others what self-respect looks like. You become living proof that it is possible to honor your own needs while still carrying compassion for others. Your decision to step into your full self can become the spark that inspires someone else to do the same. This is how personal freedom ripples out into collective change, one brave choice at a time. You don't need to offer explanations to those who don't understand your transformation. You don't have to defend your new boundaries to people who only knew the old version of you. The most powerful statement you can make is simply to live fully, to glow unapologetically, and to let your presence speak for itself. Those who are meant to walk with you in this new chapter will celebrate your growth. Those who are not will drift away naturally, making space for new connections aligned with your highest good. So I invite you to pause and reflect. What parts of your life feel expansive and light? What relationships make you feel safe to be exactly who you are? And which ones feel heavy, as though they quietly expect you to shrink to fit inside their comfort zone? If you can answer these questions honestly, you'll know exactly where your energy needs to flow from this day forward. If you're feeling ready to declare this shift, I encourage you to write it below in the comments. I choose my own balance. Let it be more than just words, let it be a promise to yourself. Every time you see your own declaration, you'll be reminded of the strength you claimed here today. Thank you for sharing this time and this space with me. Your presence here matters more than you know. Each like, each comment, each subscription tells the universe that you're not only listening, but also taking steps toward the life you're meant to live. It's your engagement and your trust that allow me, here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot, to continue creating these messages that speak to both your heart and your path. As you leave this video, carry with you the awareness that your journey is sacred and that you are loved for who you truly are, not for the role you've played, not for the balance you've kept for others, but for the light you bring simply by being yourself. My wish for you is that you keep walking in clarity and peace, that each step you take is guided by your own truth, and that your days ahead become a living testimony to your courage. May you always know the strength of your own spirit and the joy of a life lived in alignment. And may you, dear Libra, never forget that you are allowed to take up space, to shine brightly, and to live free.